Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom, our student Cantor, Lainey Zell. Shabbat Shalom to Frank. So pleased to be with you to celebrate Shabbat on this crisp autumn, beautiful evening. We hope you have journeyed through the week well and that you're ready now to embrace the peace, the calm, the meaning of Shabbat. Allow me to say a word or two about our service. As we always do, there is a prayer book available to you just in this link. It is a flip book in the upper right-hand corner, and you can click on it either where you are now or in a second device. And if you want to follow along in the prayer book, you can. But I want to assure you that if you just want to sit back and take in the beautiful music from our Cantor, and the readings, the poetry, the words, you'll be fine just doing that too. So we're so glad you're here with us. And again, Shabbat Shalom. And we begin, as we always do, with the lighting of Shabbat candles. We're grateful that our Director of Education, Dara Halab, is leading us in candle lighting today. And she's doing a reading from your prayer book. I believe you can, if you would like, you'll find it on page 3.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
And now, please join me in singing L'chuna Ranana. L'chuna Ranana l'Adonai Nariya L'tzor Yisheinu L'chuna Ranana l'Adonai Nariya L'tzor Yisheinu Nekadma fanav betoda bizmirot nariya lo לכו נרננה לאדוני, נריע לצור אישנו, נקדמה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו, נקדמה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו. Please rise for the Baruch Hu on page 28. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
The next prayer in our service is the Ma'ariv Varavim, which speaks of evening. And it's so hard to believe it's already dark. We've enjoyed that light that carried us through September and October. And now the days are getting shorter and the afternoons, are becoming darker. And we long for light, which is the theme even of Ma'ariv Varavim. Light, the light that illumines our homes, the light that lets us see the people we love, the light that is a symbol of wisdom and knowledge and justice. And so in the spot of Ma'ariv Varavim, please allow me to share this beautiful poem. It is from our prayer book, but it's from somewhere else. So maybe just listen. Some words about darkness, some words about light. In the beginning, even then, a new light was sown for the righteous, a promise that your light would become a catalyst, first for order and then for hope. Author of language and light, help us to use words as you have to cast light into dark waters and to draw out justice and truth. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'ariv Varavim. And another source of light are our prayers and their messages, the Shema being one, a prayer of oneness. We continue now with Shema on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
On this Shabbat, I am eager to share words you know. I thought it might be a nice change for us to reflect on the words of the V'ahavta together. On page 37 is a beautiful contemporary translation of V'ahavta. Many of you know it because we've been using our prayer book Mishkan Tefillah for a long time, but it's so beautiful, and I thought this might be a nice Shabbat to share it with you once again. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gates. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot so that I can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. And in that last line, we connect to that moment when God led us out of Egypt so that we could be distinct and unique, that we could live out a Judaism of justice and love, of inclusion and tolerance and blessing and joy. And so we now connect to that moment of being led out of Egypt and on our way to this distinct tradition by singing Mi Chamocha together.
ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. Please rise for the Amidah on page 48. Adonai sfatai tiftach, Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיים ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. We'll continue with a reading on page 59. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us, so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. We will continue with Shalom Rav on page 57. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Now we'll take a moment to pray silently. Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Amen, amen. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Amen, amen. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. May the one who makes peace in the heavens descend on us, and the world will say Amen.
After that beautiful song of peace, we think about those people in the circle of the temple family and beyond who are in need of shalom, shalom peace, but also shalom rooted in the word shalem, which means wholeness. People who are in need of a greater sense of wholeness in their life because they're struggling with illness, be it physical or emotional, spiritual. And we offer a prayer for their well-being, the Misha Berach, which I will share, and I'll share the list as we do every week, and our Cantor will sing as well. Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'imotenu Sar Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech et HaCholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel, bless and heal all those in our temple family who are ill, including Alon ben Sarah, David Eliyahu, Hannah Esther bat Krendel, Nechama bat Chava v'Chanoch, Yehuda ben Fischel, Sally Bloomberg, Benaifer Davar, Elizabeth Drabkin, Sydney Duberstein, Carlene Dubin, Rachel Duff, Kathy Hall, Matthew Kaiser, Jamie Kidwell, Jill and Louis Landsberg, Candace Morahan, Saul Miller, Brian Strongen, Eileen Sinkus, and David Salzberg. We also think of all those people who have been victims of violence anywhere in our world, in Israel as well, and those who, in service to our country, are in need of healing, of strength, and support. May the Blessed One be filled with compassion, giving them health, restoring them to strength and a full life. May God speedily send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say together, Amen.
Amen.
And let us now turn to these words in song.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha, lavotenu Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
It's my pleasure to, as we do each Shabbat, to share just a few words about where we are in our parsha. I think before even talking about that, it's important to acknowledge that this week, the last few weeks, have been challenging on many levels. COVID cases are rising. Politics are still very much in flux. The news is filled with volatile events and vitriol. In keeping with my own Rosh Hashanah sermon, I myself am trying to breathe deeply, to stay focused, and to stay composed. In Hebrew, we might call this temperament, which I think is so needed right now, hishtavut hanefesh, or equanimity, or inner calm, trying to maintain an even keel. Perhaps you know someone who always seems to be able to do that. I know people like that, and so many times I wish I were like them, unflappable, appearing less stressed than I feel, presenting that inner calm. The root of this quality remains at least somewhat elusive. Some people say you inherit this, it's in your genes, you are just an incredibly calm baby. Other people attribute it perhaps to meditation or just the wisdom of life experience. Going back to our sages some 2,000 years ago, this was identified even then as a desirable quality, and one that the sages actually equated with faith. We see an example of this way of thinking in a beautiful commentary on the opening verse of this week's Torah portion, which is Chaye Sarah. The portion opens telling us that Sarah lived 127 years. And then it repeats itself, stating again, such was the span of Sarah's life. Now we know from so many times that we discuss Torah portions, every repetition is an occasion for commentary. It is a spotlight. The text says, look at me, there's something here to be focused on. This repetitive commentary about the span of Sarah's life over and over again has generated an array of interpretations. Those who know the story of Sarah's life know that she experienced tons of ups and downs. As a young woman, she left her family, she left her homeland to follow and participate in Abraham's journey. During that journey, once she was passed off as Abraham's sister and went briefly into some harem of a faraway king. She suffered through attempts of having to have a child. She grew jealous of her handmaiden Hagar. Finally, she had a child in her old age, yet she died before Isaac married, before she could see him have a life for himself and have his own children. The rabbis suggest that despite all these ups and downs, Sarah's character remained unaffected. Her wisdom and righteousness abided through every moment of her life. She had, they say, the quality of hishtavut hanefesh, equanimity, and inner calm. Throughout rabbinic literature, our sages place a high value on this characteristic. Perhaps it was necessary for them and for all of us in facing difficult times, maybe at some points persecution, or just as today, unrest. And it is likely that the rabbis who raised up this quality and talked so much about it, connecting it to Sarah, also influenced our great scholar Maimonides, who is known for his emphasis on moderation, which he called walking the middle ground, mechuvanut be'emsaut, the idea that pushes back on extremism and encourages us to live our life in the place of balance. The rabbi's wisdom assigned to such a high value of hishtavut hanefesh is actually an early reflection of what we might call today emotional intelligence. When we have emotional intelligence, we are attuned to our feelings, but we are not dominated by them. We can look at them and evaluate them and judge them appropriately. If we do so, we are less likely to behave irrationally or say something damaging or hurtful. We do sadly have examples of biblical figures who act with less emotional intelligence than one would like. Even our famous Moses at times loses his temper, gets incredibly angry at the rebellious Israelites. And you know of the story, for example, when he struck the rock out of anger, which kept him out of the land of Israel. How about Joseph's brothers, who let their hatred of Joseph overwhelm their brotherly ties, and they sold him to the slave traders who were on their way down to Egypt? Sarah, the heroine of this Torah portion, however, according to the rabbis, never lost her cool. According to the sages, she lived every day with the same quality of character. It's actually quite notable that the rabbis draw this midrashic conclusion about Sarah, because more often than not, and probably no surprise to all of you, the Bible's interest in feminine characters is pretty minimal. Our Torah actually reveals very little about Sarah's personality and her emotions. We know a ton about Abraham and his feelings and his emotions and his reactions. They are laid out all over the Torah portions last week, this week. Sarah's life, however, is almost entirely described in the context of Abraham's needs and journeys. Yet the rabbis spend a lot of time turning this lacuna, this gap or omission, into a positive trait. Her equanimity needed little elaboration, and it made all of her days, as the text says, litova, for the good. In these times of turmoil in our own society, and possibly in some of our own lives, may we, like Sarah, find our way to hishtavut hanefesh, a sense of inner calm, the experience of equanimity. And may that inner calm bestow upon us a beautiful and meaningful Shabbat, a good week ahead. May it help us to navigate the challenges that we are facing and our society is facing too right now. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. If you'll join me now and rise for the chanting of the Aleinu. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kgoye haratzot, velo somanu kemishpechot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem vegoralenu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim livnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo u'shemo
We come now to a moment in our service of memory, of honoring those who have come before us, of sending our strength and love to those people who are mourners in our congregation. On page 288, you will find a number of poems, of meditations and readings that help us bring to mind those whom we have loved and lost. I invite you to either turn to that page now and find a reading that speaks to you, or just take a few moments with your own memories, with your own thoughts of those people who you are missing this day and every day. And in a moment, we'll come back together to share the list of those people our congregation is remembering on this Shabbat. Please join me in extending condolences to the members of our temple family who have had deaths in the last 30 days. We hope that despite the challenging times that COVID presents and the virtual realities that most of us are living in, you all have been comforted by the temple family in some way. And we send you our condolences, our love and support. To Barbara Green on the death of her sister, Nancy Kaufman, to Laura Weil on the death of her mother, Shirley, Allison Rome and her family on the death of her father, our longtime member, Rob Rubenstein, to Janet and Russ Roseman on the death of their beloved daughter, Deborah, to Janessa Hoffman, who celebrates her daughter's bat mitzvah on this weekend and remembers her father, Michael Jacobson, to Judy Gayer on the death of her brother, David Sandler, and Ian Lebowitz on the death of his beloved wife, Donna Oshie, to Walt Gans on the death of his mother, Vivian, and Jamie Hecker, who remembers his mom, Alice, to Mark Groff on the death of his mother, Peggy, and to Richard Saperstein on the death of his beloved wife, Lisa. We remember our wonderful and active temple member, Karen Jackson. And we extend our condolences to Jackie Cooper and Patricia Cooper, Lily and Isabel on the death of their husband and son and dad, Rick Cooper. We extend our condolences to Lee Walzer, who just in the last 10 days or so lost his beloved mom, Maxine Walzer. And to these names, we add the names of people whose yahrzeits fall on this Shabbat every year. Daniel Bachman, Albert Bass, Rose Berman, Flo Ann Bina, Selma Bland, Marion Breyer, Edith Bucker, Barbara Ann Elliott, Suzanne Frank, John Geiss, Ida Gelfand, Judy Goldstein, Helene Hemmendinger, Philip Herman, Lily Katz, Abraham Kempler, Jeanette Kilberg, Joseph Kittiver, Estella Koch, Cynthia Kramer, Barbara Kruger, Harriet Lawrence, Burton Lizer, Marvin Levins, Kate Levy, Monte Lippert, Eli Malka, Trina Malamed, Edward Mendelson, Jerry Miller, Arthur Moses, Sheldon Neuberger, William Padlasky, Anita Reinhars, Helen Rosenberg, Robert Rosenfeld, David Schwartz, Harold Silver, William Silverlieb, Herbert Starkey, Benjamin Suslowitz, and Ida Yukhanova. I'll take a moment. In the event that I said a name wrong, let me pause and invite you at home to say that name or any other name you'd like to add to this list aloud. We pause for a moment and then turn to Kaddish Yatom. The Mourner's Kaddish for those who are following in the book is on page 294. Won't you join me? Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'alma divrach yerutei v'amlich malchutei v'chaye chon uv'yomei chon uv'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael v'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam omei omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudesha b'ruchu Leolam mimkol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'almiran be'alma v'imeru amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'alkol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace and comfort and strength and love to all who are grieving, to all who are bereaved, here and everywhere, and let us all say, Amen. We turn in just a moment to Kiddush, but before we raise our Kiddush cups, let me say a word or two by way of announcement. First of all, just a reminder, I hope you have your connection and that you refer to it to participate in some wonderful programs, including an exceptional one coming on Sunday night, a reflection on the elections by a number of the temple journalists who are members and journalists. And also these events are on our website. You can follow them along there. But before we get to that event, we have the event of 3 young people becoming bar and bat mitzvah tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon. And we say Mazal Tov to our B'nai Mitzvah students. Here they are right in front of you, Lila Hoffman and Micah Krasner and Ella Chapman. All of them will celebrate this important milestone coming up tomorrow. You can watch on our live feed and follow this joyful event. And now we join our Cantor in singing Kiddush. I have my Kiddush cup here. She has hers. We'll turn to her, and we're on page 5 if you want to follow along.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehillah b'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-shabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. And if you'll join me one final time for a closing song, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, this world will be built with kindness. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, and a word of final blessing. As we go forth from this service, may we each find a sense of hishtavut hanefesh, of equanimity and inner calm. And having that, may we know and act to make the world a better place, to make our relationships richer, more loving, more tolerant, more inclusive. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et hamo v'shalom. May God grant us that inner calm known as peace. Shabbat Shalom.